Hello everyone, welcome back to our criminology live lecture series. In the previous lecture, I think 4 lectures, we have discussed the positive school of criminology. In the 4th lecture, we learned that crime may be influenced by biological, psychological, social, and even environmental factors. We also discussed the contributions and criticisms of Cesar Lombroso, Enrico Ferri, and also Raffaello Garofalo and 2 others proponents of positive school of criminology. Today here in this lecture, we will be studying about psychological theories of crime. So psychological theories focus on the mind, personality, emotions, learning, intelligence, decision making, and behavior of an individual. These theories try to answer questions such as why do some individuals react violently to frustration and others do not? Why do some people develop antisocial behavior? How do childhood experiences influence later behavior? Can criminal behavior be learned from family members, from peers, from media or social surroundings? How do personality traits, emotional control, and mental process influence offending? Therefore, by the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand psychoanalytic theory, personality theory, intelligence theories, learning theories, aggression theories, and modern psychological explanations of crime. I have actually made some notes on this lecture, so we will be sharing the notes if you require them. Okay, so before starting officially on my lecture, I would like to say if my life is working or not. Yes, of course my life is working. So coming with the lecture, the meaning of psychological theories of crime. Psychological theories actually explain crime by examining the internal process of an individual and what these internal processes and what they can study, what are the factors that they may study. They actually study about personality. They may also study about intelligence, about emotions, also about impulses, attitudes. They may also study about moral development. Also very important thing is childhood experiences. About mental disorders they may study about learning, memory, and about decision making, anger, aggression, maybe that of self-control. So psychologists study these aspects, and psychological theories do not claim that every person with a particular trait that we have mentioned that will become a criminal. They just not conclude from a particular trait that he will become, so he will become this type of criminal, or actually criminal from such a trait, from such a memory, or maybe from such a decision making, or from such impulses. Okay, and they try to find some pattern before coming to an conclusion. Instead of the finding of traits or concluding on the basis of a traits, they examine how certain traits, certain experiences, and patterns of thinking may increase the risk of offending, especially when combined with social problems, with peer pressure, poverty, maybe with substance misuse, or maybe regarding opportunities. For example, low self-control, it meant alone cause crime, but low self-control combined with easy opportunity, with peer encouragement, and lack of supervision may increase the risk of impulsive offending. So the psychological approach is very important because two people may face same social conditions, but may they react it differently. One may choose a deviant path, and another may go with the norm go with normal way of life. For example, two children may grow up in the same poor neighborhood. One may complete his education and avoid crime and go for a better job, better livelihood, and another may become involved in delinquency. So psychological theories help explain these differences, as we have mentioned, by studying emotional developments, by studying the coping mechanisms, about impulse control, moral values, about the attachment with the families, maybe with exposure to violence, with the exposure or experience of exposure to violence, like if someone had some violent exposure during childhood, how he carry on that in his later part of life or in his remaining part of life. Other factors may be ability to manage anger, how one handles his anger and other such outbursting emotions, or maybe attitude towards law and authority. It's a very important factor, how one has attitude towards law and authority, whether he is an law abiding citizen or he is a kind of rebellion citizen, and why he need to be so, why he is behaving so. Is it due to lack of education or lack of attitude, lack of influence, or what? So psychologists study, or psychological theories analyze these premises, and psychology is therefore useful in criminal investigation, in offender profiling, also in counseling, and most importantly in juvenile justice, where psychologists play an important role, and psychological premises play an important role, because juvenile justice are a very delicate chapter. It also impacts on prison rehabilitation, in probation, parole, in victim support, and also in violence prevention programs. Now we are moving with psychoanalytic theory, which is associated mainly with Sigmund Freud, a famous psychologist, Sigmund Freud. He believed that human behavior is influenced by unconscious desires, childhood experiences, internal conflicts, and personality developments. Like childhood experiences, internal conflicts, these are very much important in shaping human behaviors. According to the psychoanalytic theory of Sigmund Freud, some criminal behavior may arise from unresolved emotional conflicts, from weak moral development, maybe from traumatic childhood experiences, or maybe due to inability to control emotions. So for Sigmund Freud, he found some structure of personality. Okay, he has gone with three premises. One is id, one is ego, and one is superego. So Freud divided personality into three parts. One is id, one is ego, and one is superego. So what is id actually? The id is the instinctive and impulsive part of personality. It may seek to for immediate satisfaction of desires and follow the pleasure principle. For example, the id may demand immediate pleasure, may demand immediate revenge. It may also demand like basic needs like food, money, or sex, or maybe power without considering consequences. So this is id. It is dominated by impulsivity. So what is ego? Ego is a rational and realistic part of personality, contrary to id. It follows the reality principle. The ego tries to balance the desires of the id with the rules of society. For example, if a person wants money out of his id, the ego may guide the person to earn it legally rather than stealing it. So ego is a controlling factor of id. And the third one, superego. What is superego? It represents the moral values, the conscience, the social rules. It develops through parenting, through education, through culture, and also with socialization. It tells a person that certain actions are wrong, certain actions are unfair, or certain deeds may be harmful. So a strong and healthy superego, which are actually built by parenting, by society, or maybe even by culture. So a strong and healthy superego may discourage the very antisocial behavior of an individual. So these things from Sigmund Freud is very important. One is ego, which is kind of our primitive mind to actually need something out of impulsion, like pleasure, revenge, food, money, sex, power, or whatever we want. We just need it in seconds. Okay. And ego is the balancing factor of it, which goes on the rationality, whether we should be doing it in a right way or not. On the other hand, superego is kind of guidance by parenting, by education, culture, socialization, etc. So what Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory says? It says that crime is an imbalance of personality. The three things that he has mentioned, id, ego, and superego. With these three things, Sigmund Freud has explained that crime may be an imbalance of these personalities. When there is an imbalance among the id, ego, and superego, crime happens. For example, a strong id and weak ego may lead to very much of impulsive behavior. A weak superego may lead to poor moral control. A weak superego means he is having a lack of education, he having lack of parenting or guidance, or maybe lack of social norms. It may lead to poor social control. And excessively harassed superego may create guilt, anxiety, or self-destructive behavior. If someone having an excess of control and excess of parenting, it may go with very much anxiety, or maybe with guilt or resentment, or self-destructive behavior. Unresolved childhood conflicts may influence later aggression or antisocial conduct, which is also part of in imbalancing the personality. A person with weak internal control may more likely to act on anger, greed, jealousy, or revenge. They may act very much into the anger, greed, or other types of emotions who has weak internal control. But this doesn't mean that every person with childhood difficulties become a criminal. This is very important. It doesn't mean that every person with such kind of difficulties in childhood, he may become such criminals, or certainly to become such criminals. Psychological development is actually influenced by many protective factors, including supporting family relationships. It may be with education, maybe with counseling, or definitely with we every one of us having some role models. Okay, so if we have a positive role model, then it may lead to some kind of positive impact into our day-to-day life. And also, very importantly, the community support that we get from the society and our communities. So these are the important factors. Someone saying Ray Fisiak, he says hi, hello Mr. Rai Flastiak, hello. Coming to the childhood experiences and crime, The psychoanalytic theory, which was actually propounded by Sigmund Freud, it gives great importance to early childhood. According to this approach, neglect, rejection, abuse, inconsistent parenting, emotional deprivation, and traumatic experience may affect personality development. This theory says that, like, these factors of neglection, maybe rejection, maybe abuse or emotional deprivation during childhood may have some traumatic experience that may carry on while he is developing or she is developing personality throughout ages. A child who grows up without stable care or emotional attachment may develop distrust, may develop anger, insecurity, or difficulty forming healthy relationships. So these experiences can increase the risk of later behavioral problems, maybe with aggression, substance misuse, or other kinds of delinquency. But this childhood adversity is a risk factor, not a destiny. We must say that if someone having childhood adversity, it is a risk factor. It is not that destiny he is bound to be a criminal. No, it is not such things that he is bound to be a criminal. But he has some possibility that he is more likely to go in such a delinquent way if he is not guided well. So many people who experience hardship do not even commit crime. Okay, they may even live a life in that way, or may live a better life with choosing the way of hard work than going with the shortcuts. Okay, so coming to the strengths and criticisms of psychoanalytic theory, what are the strengths? They can be it had importance on childhood experiences, which is very positive things, emotional conflict, unconscious motives on moral development, personality formations, the role of family and relationships. So these are the strengths, these are the actual values that we can see in someone diverting into crime. Okay, these are the actual things that uh, we can see how psychoanalytic theory highlights about. Coming to criticism, the psychoanalytic theory is relied too heavily on childhood explanations or childhood trauma and other things. It may not adequately explain economic, social, and situational causes of crime. Whatever happening out of situation or social deprivation, the psychoanalytic theory doesn't explain that. It may also be difficult to test through research. Okay, so this may be very difficult to do it through research, to prove it through research. So these are the criticisms of psychoanalytic theory. But despite these criticisms, the theory influenced child psychology, counseling, offender treatment, and study of emotional development. This theory also has importance in juvenile justice system. So that was the Sigmund Freud's theory or psychoanalytic theory of crime. Moving ahead with personality theory of crime. So personality refers to what? It refers to relatively stable patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Some personality traits may increase the risk of antisocial and criminal behavior, especially when combined with poor supervision, peer pressure, substance misuse, and opportunity. So psychological research often examine traits, some traits like impulsivity, low self-control, aggressiveness, lack of empathy, sensation seeking, hostility, maybe emotional instability, manipulativeness, lack of guilt, poor frustration tolerance, etc. These are the traits that psychological research examines in a criminal or in a person, which may lead to a criminal way of life. So it is important to remember that a personality trait is not the same as criminal identity. Personality it influences behavior, but it doesn't determine a person's future. Now we are moving with antisocial personality disorder. So antisocial personality disorder, it is often said that ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, it is a mental health condition involving long-term pattern of disregard for the rights of others. Possible features of antisocial personality disorder may be repeated lying or deception, impulsivity, irritability or aggression, reckless behavior, lack of responsibility, repeated violation of social norms, limited remorse after harming others, etc. So not every offender has ASPD, not every offender has antisocial personality disorder, and not every person with antisocial personality disorder commits serious crime. A diagnosis can also be made by qualified mental health practitioner. It should never be used casually to label people or predict criminality on the basis of ASPD. In criminology, ASPD is studied because some persistent offenders may show patterns of impulsivity, aggression, low empathy, and disregard for rules. So this is all about antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD. Coming next to psychopathy. So what is psychopathy? Psychopathy, as we are going to discuss about psychopathy, what is it? Okay, it is a term used by psychological and criminological research to describe a cluster of traits actually. And what are the clusters? They may be like superficial charm, manipulation, lack of empathy, lack of guilt or remorse, emotional shallowness, maybe persistent antisocial behavior, etc. So psychopathy is not simply another word for criminal, or maybe it's not directly analogous to be a violent person. Okay, so many people who commit crimes do not have these psychopathic traits, and many people with some such traits may never commit even serious crimes. So psychopathy is relevant in risk assessment because persistent violent offending may sometimes be associated with these callous and unemotional traits, especially when combined with some history of violence, substance misuse, or repeated rule-breaking behaviors. So this is psychopathy, and we must be concerned about it, but we must not generalize it that psychopathy is directly related to criminal behavior or a violent person. Coming next to the self-control theory. What is self-control? Self-control is the ability to manage impulses simply, to delay gratification, control anger, and consider consequences. Some individuals with low self-control may be more likely to engage in impulsive acts such as assault, theft, reckless driving, maybe substance misuse, or even with vandalism. Low self-control may develop when a child experiences inconsistent discipline, poor supervision, neglect, or lack of positive guidance. However, self-control can be strengthened through parenting, education, emotional skills, with training, with counseling, and supportive social environments. So self-control is very important factor in criminology. Coming next to the intelligence theories of crime. So early criminologists sometimes argued that low intelligence was a major cause of crime. Some researchers believe that persons with lower intelligence might have difficulty understanding consequences, resisting peer pressure, performing well in school, or obtaining stable employment. However, early intelligence theories were often biased and used poor methods. They sometimes unfairly labeled poor, marginalized, disabled, or less educated person as inferiors. So modern criminology takes a more careful approach. Okay, they go with a more careful way than the traditional criminological approaches. Intelligence alone doesn't cause crime. The lack of intelligence or lower intelligence or lack of intelligence, maybe lower IQ that we can technically term it, it doesn't actually cause crime. A person with low academic performance may face failure in school, may face exclusion, low confidence, he may be unemployed, or may invite negative peer groups. These social experiences may increase the risks in some cases. At the same time, many highly intelligent people commit crimes. This is very important, including uh, white collar crimes, especially financial frauds, and most importantly in today's time, cyber criminals. um, Cyber crimes are mainly committed by highly technical or technically educated individuals. They are highly intelligent people. So the theory of intelligence that low IQ people commits crime is not practically right in present situations where financial frauds, cybercrime, corruption, and even organized crime are coming as a prominent, or the uh, what can I say, the first one of the major contributions of various crimes. So, as we have discussed, intelligence cannot explain crime by itself. So, this is all about intelligence. Moving ahead with cognitive ability, and most importantly on school failures. So modern research often examines that relationship between cognitive ability, school performance, and delinquency. Children who struggle in school may experience frustration, bullying, exclusion, or low self-esteem. Some may drop out and become more exposed to negative peer groups or risky activities. Therefore, early educational support, special education, counseling, and school inclusion can help reduce delinquency risks. The key point is that poor educational outcomes should be treated as a support need, not as proof that a child will become criminal. So this is what we learn about cognitive ability and school failure. School failure is one of the most important theory in criminology research. Coming to the other theory of psychology, that is learning theories of crime. Learning theories, they explain crime as behavior of the crime as a behavior which are learned through experiences, through observation, for reward, punishment, and association with others. These theories are important because criminal behavior is not always inherited or caused by mental illness. It can also be learned in some ways that lawful behavior is learned in the same way that people learn lawful behavior, moral behavior. In the same way, criminal behavior can also be learned. So theorists like Edward Sutherland, who proposed differential association theory, support this learning theory. So we will be discussing about them on the other lectures in details. Coming next, what is behaviorism and conditioning? Behaviorism studies how behavior is shaped by rewards and punishments. A person is more likely to repeat a behavior if it brings reward or remorse discomfort. For example, if a young person steals money and gains status, excitement, or appeal or approval from peers, the behavior may be reinforced. Similarly, if a person commits an offense and is never detected or punished, the person may learn that crime has little risk. So this is called reinforcement or reinforcement. On the other hand, consistent and fair consequences can discourage harmful behavior. However, punishment alone is not always enough. Positive alternative education, employment, family support, and healthy peer group are also very important. Coming next, what is operant conditioning? Operant conditioning is associated with Skinner. His name is B.F. Skinner. It explains behavior through consequences. There are two major ideas. One is positive reinforcement. A behavior is repeated because it brings a reward. For example, if a person continues selling stolen goods, if it brings money and peer approval, this is called positive reinforcement. On the other hand, what is negative reinforcement? A behavior is repeated because it removes an unpleasant situation. In positive, in positive reinforcement, it is repeated to bring a reward, to bring a pleasant situation, bring a reward. Okay. On the negative reinforcement, it removes an unpleasant situation. For example, a person may use violence to escape humiliation or use substance abuse to escape emotional pain. So these are operant conditioning. Okay, operant conditioning, such operant conditionings help explain why some offending, why some crime continues when it produces immediate benefits. So these are some of operant conditioning and behaviorism. So we are moving ahead with social learning theory now. Social learning theory is associated with Albert Bandura. Bandura argued that people learn behavior by observing others, which is very important. Bandura, he argued that people learn something, whether it's something good or something bad, by observing others. A child may observe family members, peers, neighbors, or even online contents, films, or social influencers to learn things. Okay, if the child sees aggression, if he see that the aggression is rewarded, it is admired or treated as powerful, the child may learn that aggression is acceptable. Okay, he may even see that if violence get rewarded, and he may think that violence is acceptable. This is called observational learning, or it is also called modeling. For example, if a young person sees an elder peer gain money, respect, and status through crime, that person may imitate that behavior. So social learning theory is especially useful in understanding such gang involvement, peer influence, also about domestic violence, school bullying, and online intimidation. So what is differential reinforcement? What it is? Differential reinforcement means that people learn behavior based on reward and punishment they receive. If criminal behavior is rewarded more often than lawful behavior, criminal behavior may become stronger. For example, a young person may receive praise from peers for fighting, but receive little recognition for attending school or working honestly. Therefore, prevention should increase rewards for lawful behavior through education, employment, maybe with sports, family supports, mentorships, and community opportunities. Other than, what can be aggressive theories? What is aggression? In psychology, aggression refers to behavior intended to harm the other person, either physically, emotionally or psychologically. Not all crime is that of aggressive in nature, but aggression is an important factor in understanding assault, in domestic violence, in homicide, bullying, riot, hate crimes, and some other forms of sexual harassment or sexual violence. What is instinct theory of aggression? Some early psychologists, they believed that aggression is an instinct. Like Sigmund Freud, he says that human beings may have destructive impulses. Some thinkers also argued that aggression has evolutionary roots rooted to survival, for protection, competition, and territorial behaviors, in that we can see in animals. So modern psychology, on the other hand, it doesn't accept that aggression is simply unavoidable or biologically fixed. Aggression is influenced by many factors. It may be with a family environment, with social learning, frustration, substance misuse, may be related to trauma, stress, access to weapons, peer influence, and cultural norms. So what is frustration aggression hypothesis? If we combine these both two, frustration aggression hypothesis, what is it? Okay, this hypothesis suggests that frustration may create anger, which can sometimes lead to aggression. Frustration occurs when a person is blocked from achieving a goal. Let's say, for an example, if a person may experience frustration due to unemployment, humiliation, discrimination, maybe due to family conflict, financial stress, or maybe due to repeated failures. So this frustration may lead to anger. If a person lacks healthy coping mechanism or healthy coping skills, anger may be expressed through violence. So ultimately frustration is leading to anger, and anger is leading to violence. So through violence, frustration is getting outspoken. Okay, so frustration, even though we can see that in the same frustration is expressed with violence, it doesn't always lead to crime. Many people respond frustration through problem solving, through support seeking, maybe with peaceful protest, or even with withdrawal. Aggression actually becomes more likely when frustration is combined with provocation. If someone provokes, that's a very important factor of aggression. It increases with substance abuse, maybe with poor impulsive control, and with the social approval of violence. In some societies, particularly in transitioning societies, the approval of violence we can see, not even though by law, but through some social norms or cultural norms, we can see the approval of violence. Even in popular culture, we can see violence is approved. Even in Hollywood or Bollywood movies, we can see that. So aggressions becomes more likely when it is combined with provocation, or from pressure from other sources or external sources, with uh, poor impulsive control and social approval of violence. Now coming with cognitive neo-association theory. Cognitive neo-association theory suggests that unpleasant experiences such as pain, heat, insult, stress, or frustration can create negative emotions. These negative emotions may activate aggressive thoughts and memories. For let's say, for an example, a person who is insulted may interpret the insult as disrespect, remember earlier humiliation, become angry, and react violently. Oh, someone says wants me to please say Dingo. Okay, Elisla, hi, Elisla. Okay, so as we have discussed with frustration aggression hypothesis, I hope we have understand what is frustration aggression hypothesis. Also cognitive neo-association theory. So coming ahead with general aggression model. The general aggression model explains aggression through interaction of personal factors and situational factors. What are the personal factors? They can be anger, proneness, impulsivity, hostile attitudes, past exposure to violence, substance misuse, poor emotional reputation, etc. And what is situational factor? Situational factor, they may include like provocation, like situation factor come from outside, like provocation, alcohol or drugs, violent peer groups, family conflict, crowding, heat. Yes, of course, heat is also a situational factor. Availability of weapons, exposure to violent media, etc. So this model suggests that aggression is not caused by one single factor. It results from interaction between person and the situation. So next we are going to move ahead with cognitive theories of crime. I hope you are understanding the things about psychological theories of crime that we have been describing in this lecture. If you have any questions, then sending me kind of this dingo spam messages, I will be very happy to discuss with you in any questions regarding criminology. So cognitive theories of crime. What is cognitive theories? They focus on how people think, how people interpret situations, make decisions, and justifies their actions. Some offenders may develop distorted thinking patterns. For example, some patterns like everyone cheats, so it is acceptable. So this can be a kind of thinking. This can be kind of distorted thinking patterns, like everyone cheats, so it is acceptable, I should also do it. Some other thoughts can be like the victim deserved it. If someone's bad happening to someone, and some people sometimes says the victim deserved it. I had no other choice. This is very important. Many people get it excuse if they do something wrong, something delinquent, like they say, I had no other choice. If I do not strike first, people will think I am weak. This is one kind of very distorted thinking pattern that people try to imply stuff which should go on nations. Okay, they do it within themselves, that they want to strike first because they want to look like weak. And some of the things that are really kind of funny from my point of view, but some people still think that rules do not apply to me, or such rules do not apply to us. So rules may be for others but not for me. So these are the things, these are the distorted thinking patterns that people may develop due to various consequences, or due to various association, or maybe due to some kind of upbringings. So these are sometimes called cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions can reduce guilt and make harmful behavior appear justified. Cognitive behavioral programs in prisons and probation settings often help offenders to identify such thought patterns and develop healthier way of thinking, maybe some tactics of problem solving, and also managing anger. So these are cognitive, this is the cognitive theories of crime, or where we have learned about distorted thinking pattern, which is most important in daily life. So if anyone listening to this podcast sometimes have such patterns, even if you are not actually interested in criminology, but just think about it. If you have at some point of time such thoughts like everyone cheats, so it is acceptable, I may also cheat. If something bad is happening with someone, if you think like, he deserves it or she deserves it, this is not something acceptable. Okay, if you do something bad and later you give an excuse like, I had no other choice, so this is also a distorted thinking pattern. Okay, another one is very famous one, that if I don't strike first, people think I am weak. People try to prove themselves that they are very strong, and they try to strike first, they try to attack first. Okay, and the classic one, the very classic one that we often copy from movies, there are famous movie dialogues even, that such rules don't apply to me. Okay, laws don't apply to me. Okay, the rules may be for others but not for me. My life, my rules. So it has been a tagline for many adolescents people, that my life, my rule. If anyone listening to this podcast, if you see someone writing this on his WhatsApp status, or maybe on his Insta status or anywhere, if he is writing it, my life, my rule, or my life, my rules, you just add one more thing into it, that my life, my rules, and my responsibility. Just mind it and tell him or tell her that yes, it is my life, my rules, also my responsibilities. So these are what we call some of distortions or distorted thinking, and they come under cognitive theories of crime. Coming ahead with other theories, that is moral development theory. So moral development theory is associated with Lawrence Kohlberg. Kohlberg argued that moral reasoning develops in stages. At lower stages, a person may avoid wrongdoing mainly because of fear of punishment. At higher stages, a person may follow rules because they value fairness, rights, justice, and social responsibility. So some offenders may show delayed moral reasoning or may justify harmful behavior through self-serving beliefs. So moral education, empathy training, restorative justice, and positive role models can support healthier moral development. So coming social information processing theory. So what is social information processing theory? It explains how people interpret social situations. Some aggressive individuals may have hostile attribution bias. This means they may interpret ambiguous behavior as hostile. For example, if someone accidentally bumps into them, they may assume it was an intentional disrespect and respond aggressively. We often see that in the streets. Teaching children and young people to pause, to consider alternative explanations, and use conflict resolution skills can reduce aggressive reactions. This is very important. We should teach people to just pause. Don't give instant reactions. Just pause on, and the conflict resolution skill we must teach every children from the very adolescence stage, various stages of conflict resolution that we may be discussing in some other videos. Okay, So what are modern psychological explanation? Modern psychological criminology doesn't rely on a single theory alone. It usually uses biopsychological or biosociological or biophysiological approach. This approach recognizes that crime may result from interaction of biological factors, psychological traits, family relationships, social conditions, economic stress, maybe from peer influence, or with substance misuse or substance abuse, with various opportunities, positive and negative, policing and criminal justice responses. These are the factors which determines the biopsychosocial approach. For example, a person may become involved in repeated violence because of childhood trauma, poor emotional regulation, maybe from violent peer influence, alcohol misuse, unemployment, and easy access to weapons. So not a single factor alone fully explains the behavior. Okay, it goes with the multiple factors. Okay, so modern psychological explanations go with this multiple explanation of biopsychosocial approach. So what we say, it usually used a biopsychosociological or biopsychosocial approach. Next, coming with trauma-informed perspective. What is trauma-informed approach or trauma-informed perspective? A trauma-informed approach, it recognizes that exposure to abuse, exposure to neglect, to that of violence, conflict, or serious loss can affect emotional development. Some trauma survivors may experience fear, anger, hypervigilance, mistrust, may develop sleep problems, and even difficulty in regulating emotions. So these effects may increase the risk of substance misuse, maybe with aggression or offending in some individuals. But trauma doesn't make a person criminal. This is very important to consider, that trauma doesn't make a person criminal. A trauma-informed approach focuses on support, counseling, safety, and rehab, rather than simply labeling people as dangerous ones. Okay. So trauma-informed perspectives is very important in criminological studies. So what are risks and protective factors? Modern psychology studies, modern psychological psychological theories of criminology. They study both risk factors and protective factors. What the risk factors can be? They can be like harass or inconsistent parenting, maybe family violence, maybe school safety, poor emotional regulations, exposure to violence, unemployment, or maybe social exclusion. So talking about impulsivity, we can see that someone has messaged me in such a way that it goes kind of spamming. Okay, so why some people do such kind of behavior? So this is a kind of impulsivity. Okay, they do it out of impulsivity. Other risk factors may be poor emotional regulation, maybe exposure to violence, maybe unemployment, maybe social exclusion, etc. These are the risk factors which modern psychology studies, along with some protective factors. So what the protective factors can be? They can be like supportive family relationship, maybe positive school environment, stable employment, mentoring, sports and recreation, maybe counseling, health peer groups, community support with emotional and social skills, and also access to treatment. Okay. So crime prevention should strengthen protective factors, not only to punish the risk factor. Okay. So what is crime prevention? It should strengthen the protective factors than to punish the risk factors. Okay. So we are coming almost to the end of this lecture, going with the relevance of psychological theories of criminal justice. So, as whatever we have studies, how relevant it is to the present criminal justice system or CJS. So psychological theories are used in many areas of criminal justice. They help in juvenile delinquency prevention, in school counseling, in anger management programs, in substance abuse treatment, in domestic violence intervention, prison rehab, probation and parole supervision, in risk assessment, definitely in victim support, with mental health diversion programs, and most importantly cognitive behavioral treatments, or in CBTs. Okay, so psychological theories are very important in criminal justice systems in various dimensions, from policing to court and in correctional facilities. In India, psychological principles are relevant to juvenile justice, in prison reforms, even in counseling services, in de-addiction programs, victim supports, and of course in rehabilitation. Okay, the Juvenile Justice Act, Care and Prevention of Children Act of 2015, and correctional institutions understand the needs of an offender. It So, as we have discussed psychological rehab and treatment, next they develop persistent. So these are the strength of psychological theories of crime or criminology. Coming to the criticisms of psychological theories. So what are the criticisms of psychological theories? Like political violence, even social structures or stratification, etc. Secondly, likely to be victims than perpetrators. It is very important that people with mental health conditions are most likely to be victims than personality labels can stigmatize people, that we will be studying in labeling theory, of him as this and that. It may stigmatize people. Okay. Fourthly, psychological assessment may be misused if it is not evidence-based or ethically conducted. Such assessments can be misused by correctional facilities, maybe in employment history, in job, like if someone needs psychological assessments for promotion, for transfer, for deputation, etc. So if they are not carried away, if they are not carried out in evidence based, in ethical manner, they may result in not a good way on whom the assessment is done with. Lastly, no single psychological theory can explain every type of crime. This is very important. Whatever we studied, not one theory explains everything. So we need a bundle of theories which are evolving day by day. Okay, we need a bundle of theories to explain types of crimes. So psychological explanations should be combined with sociological, economic, legal, and situational perspectives. So when we study criminology, as we have studies from the beginning, the introduction of criminology, then gone with classical, neoclassic, and in the last lecture we have discussed about positive school of psychology, and in this lecture, fifth lecture, we are discussing on psychological theory of crime. So in criminology, not a single school or not a single theory explains everything. Not a single theory explained the cause of crime, or why the crime is committed by certain individuals, or how to prevent it. Okay, so it is a combination of sociological, economic, legal, and all kind of social perspective, or multi-factor perspective, that we may take on. So these are the criticisms of psychological theories. We have already studied about strength of psychological theories. So with this we come to the conclusion of today's lecture. So if we summarize today's lecture, we can find that psychological theories, it explains crime by examining personality, by examining emotions, intelligence, learning, about aggression, moral development, and even about cognitive processes. Psychoanalytic theory associated with Sigmund Freud, he explained behavior through three components, that is id, ego, and superego. Also that of unconscious conflict and from childhood experiences. Personality theorists we discussed about, they study traits such as impulsivity, low self-control, aggression, lack of empathy, and also about antisocial behavior. Next, as we came through intelligence theories, they examined the relationship between cognitive ability, about school failure and delinquency, but it also so that intelligence doesn't alone explain crime. Next, we studied about learning theories. They explain crime as behavior learned through observation, imitation, reinforcement, and peer influence. We have highlighted about theories like differential association theory of Sutherland in learning theories that we will be discussing on other lectures in our next lectures. Aggression theories, they explain how frustration, provocation, negative emotions, and social learning can contribute to violence. We have already discussed about it. Modern psychological criminology uses a biosocial modern criminology actually uses a biopsychosocial approach and focuses on the risk factors, protective factors, trauma informed care, rehab, and prevention strategies. The key lesson that the criminal behavior, that key lesson that we have learned in this lecture is that criminal behavior is a very complex mechanism. Psychological factors matter, but they must be understood together in a holistic manner with social conditions, with family environment, with opportunity and crime justice policy, not just from psychological point of view. So this was our lecture today. It was about psychological theory of crime. In the next lecture, we will study sociological theories of crime, including social disorganization theory. We will discuss about strain theory. We will also discuss about differential association theory that I have discussed with you. That we will be discussing again. It is differential association theory is a very important theory of criminology provided by Edward Sutherland. We will be discussing about social control theory, labeling theory, and other conflict theories. So that's how we come to the end of lecture 5 of Criminology Live. We hope you have enjoyed the lecture, and I can see that more people have been watching Criminology Live lecture series than our previous lectures. Thank you for watching. If you find this lecture useful, please like, share, and subscribe to our Anonymous channel and comment. Also, that's all. See you in our next lecture, probably tomorrow, where we will be discussing about sociological theories of crime. Thank you very much. If you have anything to say, you can write on the comment. Thank you.